Hello Mark, I'm Mitch from the A class and I'm going to record the reading this week. The New York Times, A Sister's Eulogy for Steve Jobs by Mona Simpson, October 3rd, 2011. I grew up as an only child with a single mother because we were poor and because I knew my father had immigrated for Syria. I imagined he looked like Omar Sharif. I hoped he would be rich and kind and would come into our lives and our not yet furnished apartment and help us. Later, after I did met my father, I tried to believe he'd changed his number and left no forwarding address because he was an idealistic revolutionary plotting a new world for Arab people. Even as a feminist, my whole life I'd been waiting for a man to love. Who could love me? For decades, I thought that man would be my father. When I was 25, I met that man and he was my brother. By then, I lived in New York, where I was trying to work my first novel. I had a job at a small magazine in an office the size of a closet, with three other aspiring writers. When one day called me, a lawyer called me, the middle-class girl from California who hassled the boss to buy us health insurance, and said his client was a rich and famous alchemist. My long-lost brother, the young addictor, went wild. This was 1985 and we worked at a cutting-edge literary magazine, but I'd fallen into the plot of a Dickens novel, and really, we all loved those best. The lawyer refused to tell me my brother's name and my colleague starts a betting pool. The leading candidate, John Travolta, I secretly hoped for literary this kind of Henry James, someone more talented than I, someone brilliant without even trying. When I met Steve, he was a guy my age in jeans, Arab or Jewish looking and handsome than Omar Sharif. Took a long walk something. It happened, and we both liked to do. I don't remember much of what we said that first day, only that he felt like someone I'd pick to be a friend. He explained that he worked in computers. I didn't know much about computers. I still worked on a manual Oliver typewriter. I told Steve recently considered my first purchase of a computer, something called the Chrome Chromamico. Steve told me it was a good thing I waited. He said he was making something that was going to be insanely beautiful. I was to tell you a few things I learned from Steve during three distinct periods over the 20 years I knew him. They were not periods of years but of states of being. His full life, his illness, his dying. Steve works at what he loved. He worked really hard every day. That's incredibly simple but true. He was opposite of absent-minded. He was never embarrassed about working hard, even if the results were failures. If someone as smart as Steve wasn't ashamed to admit trying, maybe I didn't have to be. When he got kicked out of Apple, things were painful. He told me about a dinner at which 500 Silicon Valley leaders met the then sitting president. Steve hadn't been invited. He was hurt, but he still went to work at Next every single day. Novelty was not Steve's highest value. Beauty was. For an innovator, Steve was remarkably loyal. If he loved a skirt, he'd order 10 or 100 of them. In the Palo Alto house, there are probably enough black cotton turtlenecks for everyone in this church. He didn't favor trend or grimness. He liked people his own age. His philosophy of elastic aesthetics reminds me of a quote that went something like this: "Fashion is what seems beautiful not now but looks ugly later." Art can be ugly at first, but it becomes beautiful later. Steve always aspired to make it beautiful later. He was willing to be misunderstood. Uninvited to the ball, he drove the third or the fourth iteration of his same black sports car to next, where he and his team were quietly inventing the platform on which Tim Berners-Lee would write the program for the World Wide Web. He was like a girl in the amount of time he spent talking about love. Love was his supreme virtue, his god of gods. He tracked and worried about the romantic lives of people working with him. Whenever he saw me he thought a woman might find dashing, he called out, "Hey, are you single? Do you want to come to dinner with my sister?" I remember when he phoned the day he met Lauren. "There's this beautiful woman and she's really smart and she has this dog and I'm going to marry her." When Reed was born, he began gushing and never stopped. He was a physical dad. With each of his children, he fretted over Lisa's boyfriends and arranged travel and skirt length, and Eve stately around the horses he adored. None of us who attended Reed's graduation party will ever forget the scream of Reed and Steve slow dancing. His abiding love for Lawrence sustained him. He believed that love happens all the time, everywhere, in that most important way. Steve was never ironic, never critical, cynical, never pessimistic. I tried to learn from that still. Steve has been successful at a young age, and he felt that had isolated him most of the choices he made from the time I knew he was designed to dissolve the walls around him. A middle-class boy from Los Altos, he fell in love with a middle-class girl from New Jersey. It was important to both of them to raise Lisa, Reed, and Irene, and Eve as grounded, normal children. The house didn't intimidate without a polish. In fact, for many of the first years I knew Steve and Love together, dinner was served on the grass, and sometimes consisted of just one vegetable. Lots of that one vegetable, but one, broccoli, in season, simply prepared with just the right recently snipped herb. Even as the young millionaire, Steve always picked me up at the airport. He'd be standing there in his jeans. When a family member called him at work, his secretary, Lynetta, answered, "Your dad in a meeting. Would you like me to interrupt him?" When Reed insisted on dressing up as witch every Halloween, Steve, Lawrence, Erin, and Eve all went Wiccan. They once embarked on chicken remodel. It took years. They cooked on a hot plate in a garage. The Pixar building under construction during the same period finished in half the time, and that was for the Palo Alto house. The bathroom stayed old, but, and this was a crucial distinction, it has been a great house to start with. Steve saw to that. This is not to say that he didn't enjoy his success. He enjoyed his success a lot, just minus a few zeros. It took me how much he loved going to the Palo Alto bike store and gleefully realizing he could afford to buy the best bike there, and he did. Steve was humble. Steve liked to keep learning. Once he told me if he'd grown up differently, he might have become a mathematician. He spoke reverently about college and loved walking around the Stanford campus. In the last year of his life, he studied a book of painting by Mark Rothko, an artist he hadn't known about before, thinking of what could inspire people on the wall of a future Apple campus. Steve cultivated whimsy. What other CEOs know the history of English and Chinese tea roses and has a favorite David Austin rose. He has surprise tucked in all his pockets. I venture that Lawrence will discover the treat. Song he loves, a poem he cut out and put in a drawer. Even after 20 years of an exceptional close marriage, I spoke to him every other day or so, but when I opened the New York Times and saw a feature on a company patient, I was still surprised and delighted to see a sketch up for a perfect staircase. With his 4 children, with his wife, with all of us, Steve has a lot of fun. He treasured happiness. Then Steve became ill and we watched his life compress into a smaller circle. Once he loved walking through Paris. He discovered a small handmade soba shop in Kyoto. His downtown skied gracefully, cross-country skied clumsily no more, even though eventually he downhill skied gracefully. He cross-country skied clumsily no more. Eventually, even ordinary pleasure like a good peach no longer appealed to him. Yet, what amazed me and what I learned from his illness was how much was still after left after so much had been taken away. I remember my brother learning to walk again with a chair. After his liver transplant, once a day he would get up on a leg and seemed too thin to bear him. Arms pitched to the chair back, he pushed that chair down the Memphis hospital, ordered to toward the nursing station, and then he'd sit down on the chair, rest, turned around and walk back again. He'd counted his steps, and each day pressed a little further. Lawrence got down on his knees and looked into his eyes. "You can do this, Steve," he said. His eyes widened, his lips pressed into each other. He tried, he always tried, and always with love and the joy of that effort. He was an intensely emotional man. I realized during that terrifying that Steve was not enduring the pain for himself. He set destinations. His son reached graduation from high school. His daughter's errand trip to Kyoto. The launching of a boat he was building on which he planned to take his family around the world and where he hoped he and Lawrence would someday retire. Even ill, he tasted his discrimination and his judgment held. He went through 67 nurses before finding kindred spirits, and then he completely trusted the 3 who stayed with him to the end: Tracy, Arturo, Elham. One day when Steve had contacted a tenacious pneumonia, his doctor forbade everything, even ice. We were in a standard ICU unit. Steve, who generally disliked cutting in line or dropping his own name, confessed that this once he'd like to be treated a little specially. I told him, "Steve, this is special treatment." He leaned over to me and said, "I want it to be a little more special." Intubated. When he couldn't talk, he asked for a notepad. He sketched a device to hold an iPad in a hospital bed. He designed new fluid monitors and X-ray equipment. We drew that not quite special enough hospital unit. And every time his wife walked into a room, I watched his smile remark itself on his face. "For the real big times, you have to trust me," he wrote on his sketch pad. He looked up. "You have to." By that he meant that we could disobey the doctors and give him a piece of ice. None of us know for certain how long we'll be here. On Steve's better days, even in the last year, he embarked upon projects and elicited promises from his friends as effort to finish them. Some boat builders in the Netherlands have a gorgeous stainless steel fuel ready to be covered with the finished wood. His 3 daughters remain unmarried. His 2 youngest still girls. He wanted to walk them down the aisle, and he'd walk me the day of my wedding. We all in the end die in medias res, in the middle of a story of many stories. I suppose it's not quite accurate to call the death of something who lived with cancer for years unexpected, but Steve's death was unexpected for us. What I learned from my brother's death was that character is essential. What he was how he did. Tuesday morning he called me to ask me to hurry up to Palo Alto. His tone was affectionate. dear loving, but like someone whose luggage was already strapped onto the vehicle, who was already on the beginning of his journey. Even as he was sorry, truly deeply sorry to be leaving us, he started his farewell and I stopped him and said, "Wait, I'm coming. I'm in a taxi to the airport. I'll be there." "I'm telling you now because I'm afraid you won't make it on time, honey." When I arrived, he and his Lawrence were joking together like partners who lived and worked together every day in their lives. He took into the children's eyes and even as he couldn't unlock his gaze, until about 2 in the afternoon his wife could rouse him to talk to his friend from Apple, and after a while it was clear that he would no longer wake to us. His breathing changed, it became severe, deliberate, purposeful. I could feel him counting his step again, pushing further than before. This is what I learned. He was working at this too. That didn't happen to Steve. He achieved it. He took me when he was saying goodbye and tell me he was sorry, so sorry we wouldn't be able to be all together as we'd always planned. That he was going to a better place. Dr. Fisher gave him a 50-50 chance of making it through the night. He made it through the night. Lawrence next to me on the bed sometimes jerked off when there was a long pause between his breaths. He and I looked at each other and he would leave a deep breath and begin again. This has to be done even if he had a stern, still handsome profile, the profile of an absolutist romantic breath indicated an arduous journey. Some steps felt awful, he seemed to be climbing. But with the lad that work ethic and strength, there also sweet Steve's capacity for wonderment. An artist believe in the ideas is still more beautiful later. Steve's final works hours earlier were monosyllables, monosyllables repeated 3 times. Before embarking, he looked at his sister Patty, then for a long time at his children and at his black partner Lawrence, and then over their shoulders back past them. Steve finally word, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." Mona Simpson is a novelist and a professor of English at the University of California, Los Angeles. Since 1988, he has held the Samuelson Levy Chair in English Language and Literature at Bard College. He delivered the eulogy for Brother Steve Jobs on October 16, 2011, at his memorial service at the Memorial Church of Stanford University. Related of opinion, the genius of Jobs. Thank you for listening.